Welcome to the second in our New Mexico Main Street 2017 Board Development webinar series. My name is Anna Bly and I'm the Communications and Media Specialist here with New Mexico Main Street. And today our Revitalization Specialist, Amy Barnhart, will be presenting Engaging All Board Members in the Fundraising Process. And this webinar will discuss board roles and responsibilities as they relate to the fundraising process and also organizational stability. Some small housekeeping items. The webinar today is approximately 1 hour. When you enter the meeting, you will be automatically muted to help avoid feedback. If for some reason you do experience any sound difficulties or other technical difficulties, we will make the webinar available on our New Mexico Main Street YouTube channel, which is available on the home page at www.nmmainstreet.org, and will be up there for future viewing. Thank you all of you who called in to join us for this noon hour presentation, and I'd like to introduce our presenter, Amy Barnhart, and I'll turn it over to her. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I actually want to just let you know we are trying something new. I am actually broadcasting this webinar remotely on a technical service visit in Portales. So I am in the Portales Main Street office right now with my colleague Keith Chelstrom, who is our Revitalization Specialist in Economic Vitality. So we essentially have a live studio audience. We have some Portales Main Street board members, and we have Sandy Vigil, the Portales Main Street Executive Director as well. So this will be a little bit different today, kind of fun. And so if you happen to hear a doorbell ring or footsteps, that's because we have more board members here joining us. So if for whatever reason there's some sort of interruption, I will momentarily pause the webinar and shush everybody, and then we'll get started again. So as Anna mentioned, we have allotted an hour for this webinar, but essentially we have a 20-minute presentation at the beginning. And you can either use your computer or your telephone to join us in the audio mode. Because I am doing this remotely, we are actually going to have Anna moderating our questions that'll happen in the last 10 to 40 minutes of the webinar. So you will type your question into the question/chat box, and then Anna is going to read it aloud so that everybody can hear it and so that I can hear it, and then I'll answer it. So that's how that's going to work. So it's okay to either use your laptop or computer or your phone, because they won't get any feedback, because we're not going to be actually turning your microphones on today. So there's a picture of me for those of you who haven't met me before. That's at the World Trade Center and at the new observatory there for my birthday celebration in December. And what we're going to be going over today are the fiscal responsibilities of board members, the fundraising requirements and expectations, the development of a fundraising plan, fundraising training and support, alternatives to the ask for our board members who are a bit more shy, tracking implementation of the fundraising plan, and then celebrating our fundraising successes. So if you attended the first webinar by Eduardo, you probably learned a little bit more about the legal duties of directors. And those would be duty of care, duty of loyalty, duty to manage accounts, and the duty of compliance. Today our focus is on the duty to manage accounts, which basically means that board members are required to ensure financial accountability of the organization and that it maintains fiscally responsible and sustainable operation. There's a variety of tasks that fall within that duty. Here's just a few of them: establishing the annual budget, ensuring proper use of restricted funds and donations, keeping accurate financial records, establishing financial management and internal accounting policies, and the big one for us today, establishing a fundraising plan, fundraising policies, making fundraising requests, and then, of course, ensuring transparency and public accountability with respect to all of your financial resources. So just a quick little sidebar. We often talk about our Main Street boards being working boards, and there is a difference between a working board and a governing board, but the reality is that for Main Street, we actually are both. Our boards are expected to focus on implementing projects while also maintaining the traditional roles of policy development and governance. So you are working in three main areas: governance, the program work, which encompasses your events, activities, your projects, and then fundraising work, the one we're here to talk about today. No matter what board you're serving on, you have the fiduciary duty to help your organization fundraise and to make sure those funds are used responsibly to forward your mission. So how do we ensure that our board are prepared to fundraise? Well, we let them know as soon as we orient them that that is what we are expecting them to do when they come on board. So when you're recruiting your board members, make sure that they understand your expectations. Communicate to them that contributing to your organization and bringing in additional financial resources is part of their job description. Not communicating this or purposefully recruiting board members who will not fundraise is setting you up for frustration and failure. Creating a board member give-get form can actually help you make sure that you avoid some of the issues that can pop up with this. You can see the example here, which is from Gene Block, who's a very prolific fundraiser in New Mexico. This really lays out the expectations that the board member would donate a certain amount and that they would also commit to fundraising a certain amount and bringing in a certain number of donors. I would suggest that the board set a minimum amount that they would expect each board member to contribute. But why do we expect board members to give? Frequently you have board members say that, well, I'm giving up my time. Why do I also have to give money as well? Well, it creates skin in the game. It indicates that that board member has committed to the organization and forwarding its mission. It's important enough to them that they're willing to put their money there. It makes a public declaration that they have invested in the program, which helps encourage other donors to do so as well. It also impresses grantors and other funders who may require that you can demonstrate 100% board giving before they contribute to your organization. But please do keep in mind that not all board members can give at the same level. $25 might be an appropriate level for some organizations, while others could do 100. It really depends on the community and your organization. Well, let's get started. Okay, so we know that our board members are expected to contribute. We know they're expected to fundraise. So what's their fundraising? But wait, how do we get involved with that? What are we actually supposed to do? Isn't New Mexico Main Street always telling us we need annual work plans, project implementation plans? Maybe we need a fundraising plan. So what does a fundraising plan actually do for you guys? Well, it helps you prioritize your projects. Think about what are the most important ones you need to raise money for. Helps you target your resources and your energy. Helps you articulate your goals and activities to people that might be contributing to your organization. Helps guide the actions of all the individuals involved in the fundraising campaign. And it also provides structure and creates a timeline for implementation. So who should be involved in developing this plan? Well, of course, the board of directors. We expect that our board members are going to be leading the development of the strategies, setting the goals, and ensuring that we have the appropriate people, budget, and other resources needed to meet our fundraising goals. Staff should also be involved. They should be providing input into the plan, supporting the board strategies and goals, and then driving the implementation of the plan itself. Our stakeholders, maybe our current donors, some of our other volunteers, clients, businesses in our district, other community leaders, they might have ideas, contacts, talents, or skills that they can share and help us create this plan. So we have our plan, but now what? Oftentimes our board members who say they can't fundraise mean they don't feel comfortable with or actually know how to ask someone for money. So how are we going to implement our plan? We have to educate and train them. One way of doing this is to hold a board retreat or a fundraising training session. You can have a variety of different activities during this, one being having a guest speaker from another organization that has successfully raised money, and this is especially important if they were somebody who was at one time a reluctant fundraiser because they can share their own experiences and how they overcame that hump. If you have somebody already on your board who's experienced at fundraising, they can talk a little bit about their past and share some of the basics of their approach. And then you can also have your board members develop their pitch and their mission moment, which we'll talk a little bit more about on the next two slides. It's very important that your board members understand what the mission of the organization is, how it benefits the community, why they are fundraising, and what the benefits to their donors or sponsors are. I can say as a former local executive director that I didn't know what Main Street was when I came on board, and I don't think some of my board members did either. And so it's very challenging, and it wasn't their fault, but it's very challenging to get out and actually fundraise if you don't really know how to articulate what it is your organization is doing. And please remember that resource development training is required for fundraising success, and it's not just limited to that one-time training session. It will be an ongoing process. So the pitch. For those of you that are executive directors sitting in on this webinar, you have had to do the pitch in the fundraising training that New Mexico Main Street offers as a one-time training requirement. And so you've gone over this before, but for those of you that are board members who haven't been through that training, hopefully this will give you a little bit more information about how you can get in there and get the information across. So there's two components to developing a pitch. The first is your organization description. The second is the actual ask or call to action. The description itself should be succinct, should not use jargon, and not use formal language. So essentially that would mean you're not going to read off your mission statement to somebody because A, it's formal, B, it uses jargon, and C, it's probably not succinct. If you're giving a description of your organization and you tell somebody, we work in the Main Street 4-point approach of design, organization, economic vitality, and promotion. What does that mean to the average person who's not familiar with your organization? Nothing. So think about how you can describe your local organization and the work that you're doing. And I would say give yourself 2 sentences maybe to do so. You want the person you're speaking to be engaged. You want them to then want to learn more about your organization, and you want them to be excited. I would say the pitch would be appropriate if, for example, you were at the annual Chamber Gala and you saw somebody that you've been trying to connect with that you think could be a great donor for your organization. This would be where you can initiate contact with them. You can approach them and give them just a really brief introduction to your organization and what you're looking for, and then say, I'll follow up with you next week when you're in your office. So it's really your elevator speech. It's just what you use when you just have a few minutes to share your message. The second thing that I would have you board members work on in your fundraising retreat is developing your mission moment. So this should be a short inspirational example of how your organization is making an impact. It should convey what your organization is doing, even if that donor or person you're speaking to has never attended anything your organization does. I would include real people in your example. Could be a volunteer, could be one of your district business owners, could be a vendor at one of your events, could be a board member, another staff person. I would keep the story under 2 minutes so they actually want to ask questions at the end, and you want to share real results of the work you're doing. Again, do not use industry-related jargon. So there's 4 main elements here. One is an example of how your organization has helped an individual, group, business, community, overall, and then also include exact results that are both tangible and intangible. Share specific messages about the project, event, or program that you are trying to raise money for. Share with them how much money you need to raise, how much you've raised so far, and what raising that money will mean to your organization, the impact you have in the district and the community. And then finally, again, succinctly share why your organization exists and what its purpose is. And I know as Main Street board members and staff, sometimes we struggle with how we make the connection to people because it seems like, well, we did a facade squad. That was a physical improvement to a building. Well, let's move beyond that. What did that facade squad mean to the individuals that own that business? What sort of impact did that have on them? What you want to get to the heart of is the people that your work is impacting. One example I give is when I was raising money for our farmers market, for the program I was a director of, talk about one of our individuals who was a farmers market vendor who survived on Social Security, and the only way he was able to pay his bills was that he was able to sell at the market, and he was selling his homegrown fresh produce to fellow community members, and it really made an impact on his life. So that would be one example of how you connect your work to a person. So fundraising support. We've gone through our training. We've practiced how we're going to speak to people. We've come up with our mission moment. We have our pitch. But now what? What are we doing next? Well, we should have our fundraising plan that has laid out a lot of the work that we're going to be doing. But there's a variety of other ways that we as staff or as chairs of the fundraising committee or as chair of the board can do to support our board members in their fundraising work. One way would be to develop a donor portfolio. This would include prospective donors and existing donors that board member would be focused on cultivating and stewarding throughout the year. So this would be the board member that calls them up to let them know what we have going on and to make donation requests, that engages in face-to-face meetings with them, that sees them at one of our organization events and works with them, talks to them, tells them what's happening, and that helps them create ownership and build relationships with those donors. Another way that we can help our new board members get into the fundraising gear is to arrange some wins for them. If you already know you have somebody who will be donating to you who's a regular donor, pre-solicit the donation over the phone and then take a first-time fundraiser with you to test out their mission moment on that donor. That way the donor is already ready to give and the asker gets an initial win and builds some confidence up. We can also have our veteran board fundraisers mentor the least comfortable or new fundraisers. Staff can accompany board members on their face-to-face meetings to provide support to them, make sure that they're comfortable and they have all the information that they need. Board presidents and or staff can meet one-on-one with board members to discuss their comfort level and their progress, troubleshoot any issues they have, or determine how they can help them and maybe in a different fundraising area. And of course, we have our variety of resource development materials, our solicitation letter, or organization brochure, sponsorship forms, our annual work plan, perhaps those pesky economic transformation strategies we've been having you all work on, a history of your board financial support, and maybe even DVDs that you've created that have videos of what your organization is doing. So it's very possible that even though we have taught you this skill, maybe you started off with no skills in fundraising and you've learned a lot, but you still aren't comfortable with making the ask. Well, how do we plug you in somewhere else? There's many, many, many tasks involved in fundraising. Making the ask is just one of them. There's the research, the planning, the organizing, the recruiting, the relationship building, outreach, and development of the materials. All we need to do is break down all these categories into simpler tasks and provide a checklist that allows board members to select which they are or are not comfortable doing. Now here's a lovely little rhyme I have here. Don't lose the help of a board member because they are not comfortable making the ask. Give every board member a fundraising task, like Dr. Seuss. So here's a generic list of potential fundraising tasks that you can allow your board to choose from. Some of these are still including ones that might involve calling donors, making face-to-face asks, but you might say you have somebody on your board who already fundraises for their job because they're an executive director of another nonprofit, or maybe they're in a prominent role on another board and they're already fundraising. So how could we look at this list and find something for them to do? Well, number one, they have fundraising experience. They could be involved in developing your plan. They can be involved in mentoring your other board members. They also have the experience of developing their own solicitation materials, so they can help with that. They can help in the evaluation at the end of the campaign. So just because they can't actually get out in front of donors on behalf of your organization doesn't mean they can't help in the background. And the same goes for individuals that just haven't reached a comfort level with actually having to make a request of somebody face-to-face. So how do we track what our board is doing and ensure that it's being done? We've already identified what everybody's going to do. They've all been trained up. We're ready to go. So how do we track what they're doing? Let's develop a timeline matrix of all the board fundraising tasks. We could create this based on a month-to-month so that every month before the board meeting or before the fundraising committee meeting, our board members update the progress that they've made, and then you're able to review it at the meeting. Make fundraising a regular agenda item at every board meeting. Often we only talk about it as it comes up in relation to an event that we have coming up, or maybe we send out our annual solicitation letter. It should be talked about on a monthly basis. And make sure you hold everyone accountable for their commitments and their task implementation. Having the fundraising matrix and reviewing at each meeting allows you to do that. And finally, do not forget to celebrate the success of your board members and the fundraising that they accomplish. Even though they do have fiduciary duties to your organization, they deserve the acknowledgement and praise for the work that they do. And money is very easy to track, so it's very easy to measure success, so it shouldn't be a problem for us. And I can't believe it, but I did that in 20 minutes just as I was supposed to. It's truly shocking. So Anna, I want to turn it back over to you in case you have any questions that you have coming in. And actually, I do want to point out that on this last slide here, I do have a few sources listed at the bottom from where I pulled some of this information from in case you want to do a little more research.
Okie dokie, let's see. So in the spirit of we're doing a live show here, let's see, we do have a question from Lucy. But no, okay, it looks like there isn't. So bear in mind, and again, this is a short synopsis that Amy did a great presentation about how to approach fundraising with board members who are new to it. If you do for some reason watch this presentation again or watch it with board members, as I mentioned before, it'll be available on YouTube. Don't hesitate as you're kind of digesting this information to contact specifically Amy, and her information is listed here, but you can again write to any of us at New Mexico Main Street and we'll connect you with the person who's presented the webinar, because sometimes it takes some reflection, or you're driving in the car and you're like, hey, actually I want to know more about this aspect of that presentation. So I'm not seeing any specific questions today. You all are but I'm happy, let's see. No. All right, there don't appear to be any questions at the moment. So again, if you think about them, write to us. I do want to thank those of you who were able to tune into this informative session today. And again, remind you that you can watch this webinar at any time on our YouTube channel. And the final webinar in this series, so this was the second in the board development series, will be presented on May 31st by Eduardo Martinez, and it will also be a noon hour presentation. So again, we just appreciate all of you tuning in for your lunch break webinar today, and have a great day. Thank you.
Anna, I'm sorry, can I interrupt really quick?
Yeah.
Can I interrupt your perfect sign off? I forgot to add that Anna did upload the PDF of the webinar as well. And I believe that they can access that, right, Anna? They can just download that right from the webinar itself.
Yes, you can access that from the webinar, and it does look like somebody has sent in a question to us. Molly Boyles has written to us, and she's wondering, Amy, with the asks, is it for a one-time item, or is this for ongoing monthly donations? Good question. So again,
I would say, go ahead. I would say that it's for either. In the grand scale of things, you want to be establishing a relationship that is going to be ongoing. So when you go in to make that ask, once you get beyond the yes, say they have committed to giving you a donation, well, beyond that, you need to be, well, excuse me, let me start over. When you go in there to make that ask, you should be doing it from the point of view that you want this to be an ongoing contributor to your organization. So when you go in, you make the ask, they say yes, you need to think about this, and this should be in your fundraising plan. Consider, how are we going to keep this person engaged and wanting to contribute to our organization? That's where the stewardship and the cultivation elements come in. So stewarding them means that you spend the rest of the year making sure that they know what's happening with your organization, that they see the work that you're doing, that they feel appreciated for the contribution they've made to you. And so that way they're staying engaged in your work, they're seeing the impact of their donation, and they're wanting to give to you again the next year. I think that once you're able to establish a good, solid relationship and you do put the effort in to steward that donor, you're going to see a lot of repeat contribution.
okay, great. And we have a couple more questions, actually, Amy.
Great.
Somebody asked, and I think we would have this available, but I will let Amy answer that. Can we at New Mexico Main Street share an example of the board commitment letter as a PDF? I think we can do that.
Absolutely. And gosh, I wonder if we have one up on the website. We'd have to check, but we can absolutely email that out to all the attendees.
Yeah. And then it looks like also, again, Molly Boyles was sort of not so much a question, but a comment that they're considering doing a 30-30 donation to celebrate their 30th year. So $30 every 30th of the month is the idea behind that. So that sounds like an interesting initiative that ties into what you're talking about today.
Yes. Wait, Molly, where are you from? I remember, did I speak? Okay, then I think that Kathy told me about that, and I think that's a great idea. And actually, Kathy was in my fundraising training in the fall, and I saw the solicitation letter and forms that they produced, and they were fabulous. So I am familiar with that project myself, and I think that the documents that Roswell Main Street produced in support of that are fantastic examples that our other programs can benefit from seeing, to tell you the truth.
Excellent. And we can certainly, we're always happy to share materials like that with permission of the organizations doing successful work like that. We would love to be able to share that with other communities, so we appreciate that. All right, I think that seems like the questions for now. Like I said, if you're driving in your car or just something pops into your mind later from today's presentation, please don't hesitate to contact Amy or I. And we so appreciate you. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Anna. I keep doing this to you every time you try to wrap it up. I was just going to add to that, you know, the purpose of the webinar is really to kind of throw a lot of information at you in a short period of time, because we know that our board members don't have a lot of time to sit in training in the same way that we expect our executive directors to. But we will be offering the 3-part fundraising training again. I'm not sure on the dates on that. I assume they'll be in the fall. And so for any of you who are intrigued by this webinar and would like to learn more, that might be a good opportunity. I'm also always happy to share PowerPoints and other documents that we use in that course as well. So even if you just would like a little more information but you don't have the time to come sit in a 3-part training, I'm happy to send those along as well. So as Anna said, just send me an email or give me a call and we can make that happen.
And I think we did get a note from one person that for some reason they were not able to open the handouts in that particular instance. So we are also happy with a follow-up to email the items that Amy provided for today's webinar. All right, I think that's all. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, Anna.
Bye-bye, Amy.